Good morning, Mr. Hudson.
Good morning, sir. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Welcome all to Alan Hudson's World Cup Diary, Part 2. How we're going to call this, it's all about the football, because the football has started. We have done a few Alan Hudson's American Adventure, where we've talked about Anthony's journey, following in your footsteps, being born in Seattle. England are playing America on Friday night, Thanksgiving Day. Must be a fantastic day for your family. We're going to get into that a little bit later. The World Cup has started. We've talked about sober tents. We've talked about the sexuality, the monetarised and the politicised World Cup in part 1. But we're going to touch a little bit upon that. But I do really want to focus now on the football and nail down the football. You picked your starting 11 in part 1. Gareth didn't pick that 11. We knew that he wouldn't, because he is very safe. You are very outgoing and want to get the ball down and play and attack teams. But your first thoughts about the World Cup that you've seen so far, Al?
I think it's going to be as tight as I thought it would be. Obviously, the disappointment of Argentina
Yeah.
has come to the forefront. It looks like they got no chance, even if they did get through the group. They were very, very disappointing yesterday. In fact, they were almost amateurish. They were almost like watching an amateur game, where in the first half if they went about the game right in the first half, they could have been about 6 or 7 up. They got the ball in the net 4 times, I think, but threw offside. But it was a naivety of how they were getting offside. They played right upfield. The other team, they left so much space behind them, and it was so easy. They were easy pickings, and it was an absolutely awful display, both individually and collectively. And I think that's the one thing we can say already, that you can count them out.
Yeah, it's quite incredible, really, because, when you look at it before the game, I don't think anybody, I mean, you're a betting man, I don't think anybody would have put a few shillings on Saudi Arabia to turn over Argentina, especially going into the break at 1-0 up. And as you say, they had the ball in the back of the net 4 times. But to get beat in the manner and the way that they did, got to be one of the greatest upsets in a World Cup of all time, surely.
Well, I'd put myself in, in their as part of one of their teams. I would think I would be, they're supposed to have been on this great run and uh, everything else, and it just goes to show that it's all about when you get to the big competition.
Yeah.
It's nothing to do with the way they play before you get there. They looked so lethargic, and they almost made the other team look a decent team in the second half. And that shouldn't be. I mean, I see one result this morning. The last time they played Saudi Arabia, they only got beat 1-0 against half a decent opponent. But you never know the teams they have out, and then until they pick them. And I realised one thing: what the most outstanding feature of the game was, that if Messi don't do it, then Argentina don't do it. And Messi looks far from, he looks older than what he is, and he played slower than I've ever seen him play. And when you're playing at that level against teams who are so athletic, and they are so athletic, they're so fit, these nations. It kind of told you. I sat for about half hour talking to my mate about the betting the day before, and Argentina and Brazil are the favourites. Well, I've seen all of the Argentinians and Brazilian players in the Premier League, and none of them impressed me really.
Absolutely.
and I don't know how they made them
Yeah,
favourites. But what you do is you kind of go for them, thinking, well, they'll up their game,
yeah,
and when they, yeah, we heard it said on TV, and we've heard it, and I know personally that obviously it's like when you're playing for your club one week, like when I was playing at Stoke, and then we played at the Germans on the Wednesday night, and it's a different ball game, and it's a much bigger step up, and you have to raise your game. Um, but they kind of I don't know what was said at half time because I watched it at home, and I went in the kitchen at half time, didn't listen to all the jargon that was going on, but I can only imagine they were talking about a cricket score.
yeah.
And I was thinking about my mate that put quite a big bet on throughout the tournament, and he was sitting in his office in the city, and he must have seen 1-0 at half time. He thought that's one out of one. So it was so very disappointing. But what it has done, it's blown the competition wide open and give everybody a bit of a hope.
Who are the nations that you fancy in this tournament to not so much win it, but go far in it? Is there a nation? I mean, I've looked at Morocco, and I'm quite looking forward to watching Morocco play. I think that they're going to play with a bit of style. They've always had skillful type of players, and I think with the weather in Qatar, I think it's going to be conducive to them. So I'm looking forward to Morocco. I watched France last night, particularly impressed with France. Okay, they were playing Australia, not the greatest of opposition, but they do look a formidable force. And that boy Mbappe, I mean, he really does look as though he's up for it, and he's on fire last night.
Well, the strangest thing last night was he's such a class act.
Yeah,
He's such an incredible player, and I made the man of the match the fellow that marked him. The right back of Australia, he was absolutely superb. He gave him such a hard time,
yeah,
and if he hadn't have been Mbappe, you wouldn't have seen him again. Uh, he stuck to his task, and I know. I think with Mbappe, I think he's like a Rolls Royce. I think he was in first gear, uh, and he's got two or three more gears to go up as the tournament goes on. And um, ever since you first see him, you had to just you knew he was going to be the best in the world, and that's what he is in that role.
absolutely. And I think that France have had one or two injury problems, but it's probably or possibly has helped the French because it looks as though it's probably a more balanced team. Not the best 11 that they probably could pick because Benzema isn't going to make it, but Giroud playing up front and scored a brace last night, equaling Thierry Henry on to 51. He seems the perfect foil for players like Mbappe. They tend to play a different way, and it allows them midfield runners like Rabu or Rabbit or however you pronounce his name to get forward and score goals as well. So France do look like one that I think will go really far. Wouldn't surprise me if they didn't win the tournament again.
Well, yeah, yeah. They're another team. It was another game where you play against that nation where you can. It looks like you're not in top gear. Um, they've got another class act where Griezmann's a good player.
Great player.
He's like Ericsson for Denmark. He's like the Modric. He's like these type of players. He makes the game look so simple. It's ridiculous. They got the only thing that would worry me if I was to have a big bet on France. The only thing would worry me about is how easily they made two or three chances against them
Yes.
on the break, and that would concern me defensively.
Yeah.
Uh, but they were in a situation last night. Um, as I say, the difference between them and Argentina, when uh, it was a different game as regards Australia. Kind of had defended a lot. Um, uh, well, superior is a word, but uh, they look like they could break down defenses easily. You know, they got that cutting edge, and they got the best player in the tournament. So where they go from here, as I say, it's just a matter of yeah. I agree with what you're saying. They said it on TV last night about Benzema not playing and everything else, but there's no substitute for people like that. I mean, if he were playing, I think he would probably be looking at the Golden Boot already. You know, after last night.
Absolutely. Where have all the good defenders gone now? I mean, we look at most of these teams, and the Achilles heel of most of these teams are the defence, and like I'm looking at Brazil, I think could be their Achilles heel, Argentina, but they good defending, England, France. So you look at all the nations that you'd fancy. I mean, back in the day, you look at the Italians, I think that they qualified in '82 out the group stages without conceding a goal. I don't think they actually won a game until they met Brazil. But the art of defending seems to have gone out the window.
Oh well, that's you touched on the point that he's never spoken about on TV, which should be. It's never mentioned in the papers. I think they don't know what they're watching half the time. But it's I put it all down to the modern game.
Yeah,
Uh, it's like Guardiola introducing football by goalkeepers, and these defenders now think they're proper players, you
yeah.
know, instead of concentrate on stopping the opposition.
Mm,
And it was hard. England only won the World Cup because they they really they didn't have people at the back that could play apart from Bobby Moore. Ray Wilson was a decent player, but George Cohen wasn't really. He wasn't great in possession. Jack Charlton wasn't. Nobby Stiles wasn't. You know, so that their game was all about defending
yes.
and defending well. You know, they talk about England defending. The problem with England now is they defend in numbers.
Yeah.
But one on one, if they played an open game and defended, they would get found out. And the crazy thing about it is, if you just got off another planet and watch the England game, you would think, well, you got to make them, you would make them favourites. But it was such a calamity, you know. It was. Uh, the goalkeeper and centre half, they both head-butted each other in the first few minutes. He got carried off. It was like watching a comedy, really. And then the other goalkeeper comes in, and he didn't know where he was. And everything that England hit went in the back of the net. And I think you said to me yesterday about saving your goals for the big matches, and I think. They won't be getting opportunities like that in the latter stages.
No, absolutely spot on. Again, the shades of Russia 2018. We had the conversation when we done a podcast after England had smashed Panama, who, are only really famous for making hats and cigars. And, all the England fans are jumping up and down saying we're going to win the World Cup. And I remember you were at a pub and you were talking about this. Rolling on 4 years, we've smashed a team about as bad as Panama. Forget about these World Cup ratings. They're about as useful as the chocolate fire guard. And now the English, all we keep on hearing is we're going to win the World Cup. Well, come on, let's have a reality check. We played arguably the worst team in the tournament, and now Friday we're going to have a big test against America.
Well, that was I was very very pleased watching an England game, knowing that obviously uh, with the US, I was looking at more watching it in the hope of the USA obviously going through, and now my hopes have gone sky high now
Mm.
through watching Iran because I thought they might be a little bit tougher. I heard all the stuff before the game and that Quiros, the manager. I heard them talk a load of rubbish on telly again, saying how articulate is that. defensively they'd be so organised and everything else. But when they were so disorganised, it was untrue. And uh, the American manager will be looking at that game and thinking, "Oh, yeah, we got half a squeak here." He's. If it would have been me, if I'd been in the American camp now as a player, I'd think, "Christ Almighty, we got a big chance of getting through this group." And they won't fear England, that's for sure.
Do you think it's a case of now with Wales and Iran drawing that game, and we will talk about that game, whoever beats Iran by the biggest total is going to qualify?
Well, yeah, it's that's when the old draws come into it.
Mm,
That was such a vital goal the other night, and I was so disappointed with the United States giving it away, the penalty. I sent a message to Anthony the day before saying, don't give any, tell your coach not to give any free kicks away around the box within 30 yards of goal because that's all Gareth Bale does these days.
yeah,
He's like shades of David Beckham.
yes.
You can't give free kicks away anywhere around the box in the modern game, and that's what they did. And although it was a penalty, it was still a reckless tackle. And if it had been outside the box, it was called as much danger. But again, it's brought up what I've been when Anthony was in Colorado. When he was manager in Colorado, I went over and I said to him, I said, don't do it in matches. I said, but do it in training. Go have a few training sessions and make half a bit of a joke about it. But try facing free kicks without the wall.
Mm.
Uh, Again, every time they put the ball down in the modern game, they look like there's going to be a goal I still think they should scrap the wall and have a player on each post. And that, I mean, David Beckham wouldn't have all the millions he had now if there wasn't for that wall.
I think that's a very valid point because when you give a penalty taker the ball from 12 yards, uh, quite often they score, but occasionally they do miss. And I think that if you're anything, I mean, around the edge of the box, okay, there's a greater chance. But the further out it goes, the necessity for a wall really decreases. In fact, it gets in the way of the goalkeeper's vision half the time. So if you move that wall away and say, go on then, one on one, we'll put one on a post, each post, and the goalkeeper. Now you try and beat us with that. Or why don't they line the bloody wall up on the goal line? But I
Well,
suppose then
yeah,
it pushes the forwards towards a goal as well. So yeah, I get what you're saying.
yeah, it's. I can go back, and if you speak to a lot of former players, they can go back to certain incidents where certain matches have maybe cost them a league or
Mm,
a run in the cup. And I remember a game at Stoke when we were about 3 or 4 games from the end of the season. We were still in the hunt to win the league, and we played so well. I thought we were the best team in the country. Um, and then all of a sudden, we played Ipswich at home, and it was an horrible night. And they were a horrible team to play against as well. And we got a free kick against us, pretty much near the corner flag. It was shades of White Hart Lane for me. It
yes.
was in the semi-final, and and all of a sudden, Peter Shilton wanted a wall of two players.
Yeah.
Uh, with the ball somewhere near the corner flag. Now we don't have a wall from corners of two players, and and it makes you wonder. Why goalkeepers want that happening? They're just leaving. Them two players would be vital in the box.
Yeah.
Put them on the post instead of putting them on the wall.
Mm.
What's going on? How many times we see a goal go in one of the posts from a dead ball, and you say, well, if there'd been someone on the post, it wouldn't have happened. Well, we were brought up that way. That was a necessity. You had to have a man on the post, and that gives a goalkeeper so much more freedom. I know if I was a goalkeeper, I got if I thought about going out every time to try and catch a cross or get it away, coming off my line early, I would be concerned about leaving an open goal.
Yeah.
But if you have a man on each post, I mean, there was a couple of great stops yesterday in a couple of matches where they were cleared off the line, defenders. But that shouldn't be the case anyway, because they should be there in the first place.
Yeah.
It's it, when games are decided by such fine margins in these days, uh, you just can't do that, and I don't see why I mean, Anthony never stayed in Colorado long enough to pull that one off, because he would have been known for the man that scrapped the wall,
Mm.
and that would have been something I'd have done if I was a coach. I would have definitely done it, but and we'll see when the Brazilians play, exactly what I mean, because Neymar and people like that, uh, they're just so good at it in the modern game, and you think the modern day coaches and managers would say, well, they can do what they want with the ball nowadays. They can even put it right in the top corner postage stamp, and if there was somebody on the line, that don't go in.
Yeah.
It just absolutely amazes me, and that's without getting off the subject. It's basically, it should always be the subject, and something they don't talk about on TV.
Absolutely, and I think you're spot on about Gareth Bale. Very much like David Beckham, very different kind of player, of course, but almost, if Wales get a penalty, put him on the pitch, make a substitution. If Wales get a free kick, put him on the pitch and make a substitution. When he played that game against America from the start to the finish, I thought that he was absolutely well. I didn't realise that he was playing. Same as his
Uh,
pal Ramsey. I thought they had absolutely awful games. Wasn't impressed with the Welsh at all. I was impressed with America, particularly the first half. I thought they showed great energy, great fitness levels, and I thought, oi, oi, these are going to absolutely spank the Welsh, especially if the Welsh come out the box and try and play a little bit. It's going to leave them exposed, and they were just picking off the Welsh at ease in the first 45 minutes.
Well, yeah, I was delighted with the way that things were going. I didn't want half time to come, uh, as you say, but it's that old adage again. It's like watching Brighton play in the Premier League. They have so much of the ball and they create so many chances, but it's all about getting someone to stick them away.
Yeah,
It's I mean, Jeff Hurst was on telly the other day, and he wasn't the greatest centre forward in the world. He was a terrific front man, but I mean, he would score goals. He would score goals for you, and uh, crazy how crazy the World Cup's been so far. When Lewandowski walked up to take the penalty, I thought, oh, he doesn't look right here.
yeah,
And now you got him missing it. I was thinking straight away, again on the gambling element, you'd have had um, well, you'd have gone, well, we've won in the first game, because you'd have had Messi first goal scorer or leading goal scorer, which and penalties help. My friend said to me the other day, yeah, and he takes the penalties. Lewandowski takes the penalties.
yep,
Um, and when players like that miss them, there's something going on. There's something. It's not something wrong. It's not something. In South America they might say, well, it's the attitude or something else. But um, uh, you know, uh, his all-round game, Lewandowski. I couldn't work out that. I couldn't work that game out either. That it's a 0-0. I did. In all fairness, out of all the players, all the teams so far. The team that I wouldn't want to play against is Tunisia.
yeah,
I thought first half Tunisia against them I mean, they're not a great side, Poland. Don't get me wrong, but they look like they got the right idea, and they've got and obviously, we've overlooked everyone I think overlooked Ecuador. In the first game. Um, They look good.
Yeah, it's some of these nations that traditionally aren't sexy, if you like. Ecuador, from South America, there we would always look at the bigger nations above them, but quietly they've got some decent players, and they're coming up, and we're going, "Oh, where did these come from?" Again, it could be a situation with Morocco, yet to see them, but Jimmy Hogan actually referenced the North Americans many years ago and says that they've got great skill levels, natural football players. But I suppose, like a lot of Africans, just need that cajoling and getting them into a team, and then letting them play football, because they have great natural ability. And them Tunisians, they certainly got that mental attitude. There was a clip that's going around the social media of one of the defenders. He looked a right lunatic when he went in and made that tackle. You'd have thought he'd just lifted the World Cup, the way he was patting his heart and giving it a large one to the crowd. I mean, that's quite frightening, isn't it?
Well, it was the same, exactly the same with the defender of Saudi Arabia.
Yeah,
Especially that goal really gives the team a lift, and to make it 1-1, and he kind of raised his game about tenfold. He When they went 2-1 up, it was like, I don't know, like their lives were on the line.
yeah,
Argentina really, 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 they look like, I went to Sutton the week before, and they're a second division team. And when you got Argentina just looking to fly balls into the box, searching for an equaliser, you've got to wonder why, and you wonder how. We watch Man City all the time here. They just don't keep hitting crosses in. They do it more so now because they got the big centre forward, Haaland. But that is when you can tell that these teams are not the. I mean, take Messi out. They would have struggled yesterday with the old Lionel Messi, let alone this
yeah.
Lionel Messi. I was just dumbfounded of how poor they were. But then I thought back and I thought, how many World Cups have they done? Have they played like this? It's almost as if. I don't know. They're the complete opposite of Brazil, really. Where Brazil are bold as brass in the World Cup, Argentina just went through the motions,
Mm.
and they thought, well, tomorrow will do, and well, tomorrow's now a dangerous day for them.
Absolutely. You did say that they played as though the lives were on the line. Some of these countries, like Saudi Arabia and like Tunisia, and etc., etc. To be fair, some of the lives might be on the line in their countries. I mean, it is a different. It's almost a kind of respect thing for your nation, isn't it? And I think the Iranians are going to get a few lashes when they go back to Iran for not singing the national anthem. I'm just waiting for a commentator to say, hey, look, the Spanish, they haven't been singing the national anthem as well. I'm just waiting for that moment, Al. It'll be the most comedy moment of the World Cup, because, of course, there are no words in the Spanish national anthem, but some of these young kids ain't got a clue. Green as.
Well, it's humorous, we like a little bit of a laugh and a joke on the show, but
Yeah,
it's it does make me laugh when going back to around my day, and I think Graham Taylor was one as well after a little while after when he got the England job, and he was he drummed into his players that they must learn the national anthem, and he wanted to be heard. They want them to be heard singing, word for word now. Who gives a monkeys about that, as
absolutely.
a player, and it goes back. I remember the funniest story I've ever heard about a national anthem would have been we had a local fella here called Terry Mancini. He played for Queens Park Rangers. He played for Arsenal, and like so many others, played for Southern Ireland. And Terry Mancini played in a match one day, and they were standing around. They were singing. The national anthem was going on, and Terry Manson, he said, "This is a dodgy national anthem." He said, "Wait, when does ours come on?" He said, "This is ours." So he didn't even know his own because they were all Londoners. Half the team were mostly Londoners, and there's Graham Taylor wanting them to be able to sing it. It's crazy. Um, how can that enter a manager's mind before going into a World Cup match?
Absolutely. I was watching the Welsh, the build up, and it was so refreshing. All it was talking about football, none of this political garbage that I keep hearing, especially when England are playing or an England game day, as they call it now on national radio. But the Welsh give it absolute clog with their national anthem. You thought, oh, blimey, these are going to come out the trap. And when the game kicked off, they turned from lions to pussycats.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's a weird old. Well, that kind of epitomizes the Welsh
Hmm.
team, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Because they're so they believe that they're the proudest nation in the on the entire planet. And when they talk about the game and you know Gareth Bale. All we can give is 100%, and if we do, our fans will love us. Well, I've never heard so much trash in all my life.
Mm,
You know, it's like putting 11 dustbins out there.
yeah.
This don't happen. You can't just put average players out there and say give them 100%, which England have been doing over the years.
Yeah.
I'm going from Wales to England, but that's what England have been doing for years because instead of picking their best players, they've been picking players who allegedly give a lot more than the top from the proper players, and that is absurd.
Mm,
Um, I think quite a while ago on one of his shows, I told you the story about I was working for a magazine once, and the editor said to me, "We're doing a feature on Matt Letizia this week," and I said, "Can I go down to Southampton and interview him?" So they went, "Yeah, that would be a great touch." So I went down and see. I'd never met him, and I sat down with him, and like I'd known him all my life. And the next thing you know, I was asking him about the England situation, and he said, "Well, I didn't get picked," he said, "because I think one day in training, we had a full scale match, and someone's knocked the ball over my head, and it was going out of play, and uh, the coach come up to me and went, 'Why didn't you chase it?' And he said, 'Well,' he said, 'No,' he said, 'I'm conserving my energy.' He said, 'No,' he said, 'Linford Christie wouldn't have got that.' He said, so don't ask me to chase lost causes. He said, well, that's what you got to do. He said, because that really gets the crowd going. He said, well, no, it doesn't get the crowd going. What gets the crowd going is if you get the ball into feet and they can do a little bit and maybe score a goal. But chasing lost causes, and that has been England's kind of way to play over the years. They just love picking these players that come off and say, "Well, you give 110%, you couldn't give more." But yeah, look at these marathon runners. It's
absolutely.
it's poor, but a lot of people will be screaming again about the English. 6 goals against Iran, but it's Friday's gonna be superb.
Absolutely, and you're right. I mean, chasing lost causes and running. England have always looked more for athletic players than skillful, quality players on the ball. It happened during your time in the 70s. We've done it on many occasions on our podcast, My Life, My Music, when famously the song that you gave us was Frank Sinatra sending the clowns, and that's what England have always done. Instead of taking thoroughbreds onto the pitch. They've sent in the donkeys at times, and we wonder why we gloriously fail. But yeah, Friday night, what a game! Thanksgiving, the Americans are really gonna be up for that game on that day. And of course, in Belo Horizonte in 1950, put England to the sword. And I'm sure that they'll be looking and taking inspiration from that game back in Brazil, won't they?
Well, they will. They will. Yeah, that. they're they talking about proud nations. They are one very proud nation, and even my son, he was born there, but I don't know whether you can call him English or American. He's very English in his mentality, but he's been coaching there for long enough. Um, I think what they will do is after that first 45 minutes against Wales, I would sit my players down and get them to watch that every day and say that is your standard. If you want to go anywhere in your life, that is your standard. You got to keep up. There's no good doing it for 45 minutes. Yes, we know that the opposition are going to come back, and it's a big competition, and they got to fight back when they're losing. But that is a time when they could have come out and they could have. I'm all for going for the second goal, but not being negative. That they were charging around and they I think they run themselves into the ground when they had full control of the game.
Yeah.
It's different if you come out half time and you're 1-0 down and you're throwing it all in, but they did it the other way round, and I think they will learn a lot from that. They'll learn a lot from their first half performance, and I don't think you'll see that happen again.
Anthony was born in Seattle, wasn't he? How long or how many years did he spend in America? Because he did come back to England, didn't he? So, what was Anthony's journey?
Well, it was a strange journey, really, because I would think he was probably the least talented Hudson in history as regards the football. My dad was a good player. Anthony's brother was a very good player. He could have made it, and it just kind of. Well, you know the story about when he first kicked the ball. I think
Mm,
he was about probably 8, something like that. And we were in Tampa Bay, Florida, and we went to a night out, and we went to Don Shanks's coaching place, and he had about 40 kids there, and they were going on and off the field and all that. And Andy just come right out of the blue. He said, "Can I join in?" And we went, yeah, and it was. I wish I'd have filmed it really because it was quite funny. He didn't know what to do. He didn't know where to go. I don't think he touched the ball, and he was running alongside the opposition when they had the ball. So it's absolutely amazing. It reminds me of when people say Jose Mourinho and Arsene Wenger weren't good players. Or I didn't make it as footballers yet. They become what they have as coaches. But yeah, Anthony, he was a terrific athlete, and when I first took him down to West Ham, I spoke to Harry. I was very close to Harry Redknapp in them days, and he said, "Yeah, bring him down." If it had been the other way round, and he'd have said, "Bring Alan down," in them days, then Alan would have fitted in quite nicely, and I think he would have done well. He would have gone a lot further because Alan was kind of brought up in Seattle with young Jamie Redknapp. They were the same age, and you can see, it's amazing how very fortunate both Jamie and Frank were that their fathers were in the game,
yeah.
and they went into, if Jamie hadn't have had the bad injury in '96 when he came on for Terry Venables' team, he would have been a nailed on for the future England player, and so uh, yeah, when you talk about the path players go down, it does help, when you got a father or an uncle who's in the game.
Absolutely. So, Anthony was born in Seattle. How many years did he spend in America before he come back to England? At what age was he when he come back?
Um, well, he was moving about. I came back when he was very, very young,
Yeah.
not knowing that my wife had already planned not to come back.
Yeah, sure.
Uh, but so I didn't see the kids for a couple of years because
Yeah.
I was back in Stoke playing at Stoke and wondering what was going on, And then the coins finally dropped for me. That the marriage was over, but he went on a different route, and uh, he come out of the game. Or he fell out of love with the game, and he was taking a wrong path in life, and luckily straightened himself out. And his mum said to him, "Well, why don't you let's take you back to America and start playing again?" And mainly because she wanted to go and live over there, I think. Um, so he had a weird path. He got no really great football background, but you look at these coaches today and you think, well, who has, Um, but I've seen him coach. I'm not one for coaches. I still don't understand what they're trying to do. Um, but he's done a hell of a job. I mean, to get the World Cup is quite. When you think what happened to me, and Anthony's kind of got a free pass.
So he would have spent as much time in America as what he has done in England. So I mean, Anthony, does he class himself as English or American or both? Because Tom said to me the other day, does he speak it with an American accent? And he doesn't. He speaks with a great soft, eloquent English accent, doesn't he, Anthony?
Well, he does. I don't. I think he's much like Alan and myself.
Mm,
I found. I used to get the. I used to find that. Oh, I didn't get the ump with it, but when I was playing in Seattle, a lot of the English players would try and pick up the American, way of talking, and
yeah.
hey, you guys, and all that, and I weren't one for that. I was sticking to exactly the way I was brought up, and it was kind of they were in a movie and they were trying to do this role, of being the American. I wouldn't mind, but half of them only come for like end of season for 3 or 4 months. So I don't know what they were going to do with it when they got back here, walking around saying you guys. I mean, Don Shanks talks a little bit, but he'd been over in America, on and off, and he kind of lives the American way of living. So it's a little bit different with him. Um, but no, Anthony's he's very English. I mean, he could be an English teacher, really.
Yeah.
It's as you say, he's very eloquent. He I don't re- I've seen him take team talks in Colorado, and I wonder how much he's got to say in the dressing room in America.
Hmm.
I hope that he took note of all the notes I sent him the other day as regards the second half performance, because something's got to be done about that, because no one's won the World Cup if they can't go a second half, and then again, as in the old days, extra time.
And he famously as well, because it's not just Colorado that Anthony's managed. It isn't just being a coach of the American national team now, but he's had great experience. He almost took New Zealand to the World Cup a number of years ago when he was manager over there in New Zealand.
Well, I know, and he did. He took them to one match. I think it was
Got the
might have
playoffs,
been.
didn't they? Yeah,
I think it was Peru
I
that
think it
they
was.
come
Yeah.
up against,
Mm,
and I think he got them. If they'd have beat Peru, they'd have been in the World Cup, which
yeah.
would have been quite an achievement. Uh, and he also coached in Bahrain for the
Yes.
Bahrain national, the under, the younger players. And it's strange you should bring it up, because I was thinking about that yesterday with watching Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
It's the same part of the world, the same kind of mentality, football mentality. And I looked at their coach on the line, and I wondered what he must do with his players, there, because they're going in as incredible underdogs, and they pull off a result like that. That could have easily been Anthony standing there yesterday, or I remember Don's got a great story about when he coached Nigeria, and he said they actually could have won the World Cup the year after he left or whatever. He left them a real good team there. So it's the it's amazing, really, how anyone. I mean, the fella in the first game yesterday who was at Manchester United. You'd think with all that vast experience,
Mm,
um, his team got beat six by England, and yet you think, you know, it could have been double figures, really.
yeah,
And you think, well, what's happened to all this experience? And you can't blame your players because they're the best players in the country, no doubt. And it is I just find it really I don't really know the word for it. It's really amazing how he can stand there and let happen what happened. Even going back to the situation with the goalkeeper, he was going to let the goalkeeper stay on the field.
it's
Now he
crazy.
took it.
Mm,
He took a smash in the face. I mean, if it had been Mike Tyson, I don't think it could have been any harder. But it was head on head, and he got up and he walked around for a little while, and it went on to that Quiros on the line, and I thought he's got to bring him off. He's got to bring it, especially a goalkeeper. It's bad enough having a centre forward walking around. I mean, I remember Johnny Ball telling me he got hit. He done it once at Leeds. He was playing for Chelsea, and he was in a pile up with a couple of Leeds players, and Harry Meadows come on, had a look at him. Are you all right? And then he said, I was running around for a couple of minutes, and then it was an evening match at Ellen Road. He says, and it was like I was on Mars. He said, I
yeah,
didn't know. I was looking at the floodlights. I didn't know where I was, what I was doing, nothing. And that reminded me of yesterday with him. I mean, how can a coach, allow a goalkeeper? They should have got him off straight away. I mean, okay, he's got a monitor there to watch. As soon as he looks at that monitor, you've got to say, get that goalkeeper off the field. And, it's amazing, really. I know we're going off the subject a little bit, but it's little things like that. I mean, they're the he won't play again, the goalkeeper.
yeah.
So they're at the fella that came on. You know, that was a great header, the first set of Bellingham, and then the one where Maguire hit the bar, and then the second goal. He was nowhere near any of them, and he was positioning was all over the gaff, and that they got a big problem, and it probably goes back to your point with about how many goals the other team score against Iran to who goes through.
Yeah, I think that's going to be the pivotal game for them. What American players have caught your eye? We've spoken at length about England, and I just wanted to focus more about this game and the American side because after all said and done, it's your son. Blood is thicker than water, etc. And I guess around the Hudson home, you'll all be rooting clearly, and I'll be, I'm hoping that it's a draw actually because I really want the best for Anthony. I want him to smash Iran. I was hoping they was going to beat Wales. I'd like a draw so America can get something, and I'd like to see America go as far as they can. And that's only for one person, and that's your son. So it's going to be fun and games around the Hudson household on Friday. But who's the Americans that have caught your eye so far? Pulisic had a really poor game. I was quite impressed with Timothy Weir, who scored the goal. I thought he took it like a season pro. He took it a bit like his dad.
Well, he took it more like Jimmy Greaves, to tell you
Yeah,
the truth. He's a black Jimmy Greaves, but yeah, he took it superbly. And I mean, uh, it was a great ball by Pulisic. It's all he done in the game.
mm,
I'm very disappointed with him. I mean, I've been disappointed with him about the last 2 years watching him for Chelsea, but I think he was going to raise his game, and he hasn't. I was really relying on him on doing on being the star player for America, but my other son Alan said to me yesterday about, he's so impressed with Robinson. I mean, I said
yeah,
he's a
good player.
he's a Fulham fullback, and the other fellow who played for Fulham, and they're decent players. They're good players. They play in a big league, so It doesn't phase them. I was, I to tell the truth, Paul, I was all round apart from Pulisic, who I thought was going to be, the big player for them. Um, I was really impressed with the entire American team.
Yeah.
The only thing that bothered me is what was said in the dressing room at half time.
Mm.
Yes, we know that Wales are going to say, "Look, this wasn't good enough, and we got to go out and do this for the fans and that for the fans." But I've got to put a question mark against the American coach for whatever was said in the dressing room.
Yeah, and I thought the way that the Welsh come out in the second half completely changed it. Put big Kiefer Moore up front and lumped it a little bit. Went forward from back to front a little bit quicker than they did in the first half. But when you're doing that, I thought that would play into America's hands because as soon as you got the ball, they've got more players in forward positions, and there's more space to exploit behind the Welsh. And I thought that had America have shown the same levels of fitness and desire in the second half of the first half, I think that second goal would have killed off Wales. And I thought the game really was there for the taking. And as you said, it was a ridiculous challenge in the penalty area that led to the penalty. And you just knew that Gareth Bale was going to step up and knock it in the back of the net.
Well, yeah, I mean, you mentioned, and it was mentioned after that they were talking after about bringing the right move to bring more on and all that. But I thought, I'm like you, I thought it would have suited the Americans. The big thing would be for me if they brought someone like that on. We have to be double careful now at dead balls and
Yeah,
corners and everything else because he's a big lad. But no, let him have it on the halfway line. Let him have it. Don't worry about him because if they've watched tapes of it, the lad's a half a decent player, but he's no Drogba and he's
no,
no Osgood of years ago, you know. And as we've seen with it's like Haaland's. Um, it was shown when he scoring all the goals for Man City in the early days. He was only getting about 6 touches, 7 touches in a game
yeah,
because he didn't he when he goes to drops deep he just plays one touch and he knows where he's wanted. That's in the box. And them big centre forwards are a little bit like that. Lewandowski drops deep and obviously we haven't spoke about Harry Kane and how he played the other night, how incredible England scored six and he hasn't really had a shot on goal. uh, there's so many features, and the way these top centre forwards. Not that Moore is a top centre forward, not on the world scene, but no, my big concern would be how what the American coach said, and I know it's not till Friday, but um, that won't happen against England because they won't have to worry about the different styles of play. Uh, but it's going to be in the back of my mind. They should basically be through now, America.
mm,
They should have got the three
yeah.
points in the bag the other night, and knowing they're going to play Iran, as are Wales, obviously, but that vital win against the Wales would have basically put them through. So they put themselves back on a knife edge, really.
They certainly have. How do you see the game shaping up, Al? What's your prediction for the game? One of the players that caught my eye was that number 6, Musa. I thought he had a tremendous game. I'm looking forward to watching him again, and I'm looking forward to watching our midfield play their midfield because I thought that they got three decent midfield players that like to get it down and pass it quick. And again, I was impressed how quick they moved that ball and went from back to front. And I think that they're going to give England a real tough test. I know that when the draw come out, a lot of the English fans, we're going to smash Iran, we'll smash America, we'll smash the Welsh. I think England are gonna. I think we'll draw personally against America. I think that they're going to give us a good game, and I think that'll be a good result for Anthony. Go and smash Iran, and then they'll qualify because I think that we'll then beat the Welsh in our third game.
Well, yeah, like, please God, you're right, mate. Let's hope the um, I've been. I mean, the Americans will most definitely go out and well. They're usually a positive nation, where they say we can beat these today, leave ourselves wide open. Maybe not, uh, but you can leave yourself wide open against England because they play in such a negative way most of the time.
Yeah,
Forget the 6-2 the other day. That was a bit of a one-off. That won't happen again. If it was a Brazilian side open the tournament like that, you'd have think, oh, they're going to go like that all the way through it, but that won't happen. I think he's not stupid enough, Southgate, to think that the Americans are going to be a pushover.
mm,
um, I'd like to think I'd be happy with a draw, and they go through after the Iran game. I really would. I'd be delighted. But uh, my past the history with the English FA and how they treated me. I would love the Americans to win. I really would. And it's a great day for America. Uh, the only thing, if they win, which would disappoint me, is that I'm not in America to celebrate
yeah.
because they do know how to celebrate. It's a big day for them, and let's hope that they can play for the 90 minutes, because if they don't, I think the England are a lot more powerful than them. They got a much stronger bench than them. Uh, let's hope that they can put 90 minutes in instead of 45 minutes, and then I don't know. I really can't work out their mentality in the second half. How they thought they didn't. Not as if they sat back and tried to hold on to the league. It was they had. I think they had another half chance. They could have went 2-0 up. Um, yeah, it's going to be very, very interesting. The new coach and everything else today is, the game is in my day it was all about the players, and today it's all about the coaches. And they're all very much involved on the sidelines. When players comes on, they have to look at a disc an iPad and all this, and tell them what to do, where to go, and I just don't get that part of it. If you're going to pick for your country, one thing in Alf Ramsey's favour, he always said, "Look, I want you to play today like you do for your club,"
Yeah.
and he got that one right. Uh, and although they were very fortunate in '66 to pull it off, that is the right way to go about it.
And round the Hudson household, it will be focusing about the coach. It will be focusing about Anthony. And have you heard from Ant since? Are you able to communicate? Because I know it's very difficult for him out there in Qatar and stuff. But his mum's over here. Are you all going to be watching the game in the same room? You, Anthony, and sorry, you, Alan, and Maureen, or you lot
No,
Maureen in the kitchen?
Maureen will be in the garden.
Right, okay. She does realise it's kicking off at 7.
Yes, I know. We got floodlights in the garden. Um, but no, as my dad used to say, although the game has changed rapidly, my dad really, I've got a picture on, looking at him, a picture on the wall here. It's what he would think of this, it's becoming more and more, female, the game, commentators and interviewers and this and that and the other. I mean, my dad would always, say places in the kitchen, that's it. Um, but it's and that is no detriment. I mean, the girls were fans. I mean, if the fellas can go on and play half as good as the girls did in them final three matches in the Euros, I mean, you got to give us a chance, but they won't play as well as that because the girls had a coach who was very forward thinking and wanted to win, and even going in the hardest game against the USA, they knew they could win. That weren't the Euros, but No, they really went out every match, and they were fearless. I mean, Christ Almighty, and it paid off. And they got players who are good enough to carry off. And if they had a couple of players who are a little bit, not quite up to scratch, the others carried them through. They were absolutely terrific. Uh, and I just wonder what my dad would have thought about it. He he would have probably, agreed with me. Um, I don't know. I don't know about the English situation. Will they be thinking we're going to go through with maximum points, or will that be it? Southgate is very, you don't. As a man that it's like watching a mystery, isn't it? One of them thrillers when he comes on telly. You think what's in the back of his mind if you're watching, a serial killer. You think what's going on in their mind, and he just reminds me of that. He's so uptight and everything else and everything he does, and I think that kind of rubs off. I feel it rubs off on the players.
Absolutely, it's a mad world. It's going to be a mad World Cup, and you can just see that yellow banner on the bottom of Sky Sports, can't you? Breaking news: the sober tent is full of Saudi Arabians.
Well, it's just it is amazing. It is amazing. There's one thing for sure with the political thing that um, they won't get the next World Cup, and nor will Egypt. Because this can't happen again. I mean, in all fairness, the commentators said the atmosphere has been incredible, but they've got to say that because they're earning a lot of money to do so.
Absolutely.
Um, but it doesn't seem the same. Um, it's almost as if and we've heard this happen that the FIFA have given away tickets to people where they haven't can't sell the tickets. They've given them
Yeah.
away, and they just told the workers to get out there and make as much noise as they can. It's like when it was in South Africa with them, whatever they call them,
Vuvuzelas.
oh my goodness gracious. I had to watch that with the sound off. It was ridiculous. But that's the change of the game, and that's the countries we go in. But it's just we'll see. I mean, so far so good. I don't think anyone, manager, player, coach, anything can say anything about what's gone on so far. The pitches look great. Um, no, it's I I don't say I was wrong, but I still think it was a wrong decision to have it there, and I still think that there's still more to come as regards things that can go wrong. I mean, the thing with the goalkeeper against England, I thought, that was very amateurish. I thought referee shouldn't have let it go on. I don't think uh, their coach should let it go. And things like that. In a day when we stop everything for head injuries, we see it all through the Premier League here. They have to do something about that and say as soon as anything like that, he comes off the field. Because there's one thing we don't want is another uh, Ericsson episode, and
Absolutely.
and especially with the head, that was the worst clash of heads I've ever seen, because you usually see a clash of heads where at least the players got their eye on the ball, and they're kind of half expecting this to happen, but this was like walking down the street and someone smashing you over there from behind, because they both had their eye off the ball and they ran into each other. It was just amazing. And it's things like that that you have to bring up, because that could be so telling. I mean, Iran aren't going to qualify, we know that, um, but they're going to be a big part of who does qualify.
Absolutely. And the only head to
You
head we
know,
want is the game England versus the USA on Friday night, 7 o'clock. We will reconvene after that, probably Sunday morning now, for part 3 of Alan Hudson's World Cup Diary.
But let's hope it's a happy one.
Absolutely.
Well, it'll be a happy one no matter what, because it's been a for Anthony. It's been a I know it's been a great experience already, and not to get beat in that first game was quite something, and that was all I was hoping. But I uh, must say that I'm very very happy with what I see, and after watching a couple of their warm up games, they just they just baffled me. I just didn't think that they could play that well. And he sent me a message the day before saying all the boys have geared up for it, and he said they're a young team, but they're a very talented team.
Yeah,
And I thought, well, that's not what I've seen in pre-season, matches leading into this. Uh, but my son seems to obviously know more than I do. Uh, but than he should do, because he's involved with them on a daily basis out there, and I can see where they're coming from. They've got no superstars in the team, which is a good thing. Well, the superstar should be Pulisic for the money he costs and what he's done at Chelsea. Played in, I think he's won a Champions League. I don't know. And I really want him to step up to the plate. If he steps up, then who knows? When you see Saudi Arabia beat Argentina yesterday, it gives everybody hope. I think everybody's going to, all the nations will say anything can happen. We all know anything can happen in football, but when it happens in the actual tournament you're going to go into, I think it gives you a big buzz.
absolutely. A little bit like Thunderbirds. In the next 90 minutes, anything can happen. Till next
Well,
time.
the strangest thing is, watching the game last night, you're going to say, well, you might think that was a catastrophe yesterday, but if they don't go through at all, Argentina, the favourites knocked out at the group stages and everything else. As I said to you the other day, and I said to my friends, they're all going on about Argentina and Brazil, but I've seen most of their players play in this country, uh, and none of them have really struck me as that good. And they say, well, they turn it on. They're different when they play for the. Graham saw this in the head yesterday. He said, I've never seen the South American team play with less passion.
Yeah.
He said, and they're always very, very physical. They didn't seem to get that. They looked the better team all round in this. For 45 minutes, Saudi Arabia looked so comfortable. So it's all about. There was a big talk about Messi winning this be his last cup. It would definitely be his last cup.
Yeah.
That World Cup, that's for sure. And on the evidence of yesterday, no, I think it's going to blow. It's blown it wide open, and it looks like the player of the tournament. He's already got it written that it's Mbappe. Yeah. The Australians, but they take nothing away from the Australians. They could have been 2-0 up and made it very difficult for the French. That could have been an entirely different game. And then he hits a post at 2-1. It could have been 2-2,
Yeah.
and made it very, very difficult. So, these teams. We've only had 2 days of it, and there's so many question marks and so many. There's no doubt. But I think the most important thing was when we decided to do the World Cup. It was going to be based really on my son being there, and
Absolutely.
what I've seen so far from the American team, if they will get better as they go on, they'll take great confidence out of the way they played.
Till then,
All
mate,
right, mate.
I've got some moving to do now. I'm sure you've got some moving, and we're going to be looking forward to the moving, the shapers, the movers and shakers and everything on Friday night when England play America. So hope you all have a great time, Al, in the household, watching Anthony, and hope it all goes to plan for you, mate. Cheers, pal.
Pal, love, Paul.
Cheers. Bye now.
Love, mate.
See you now.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.